My girlfriend was mute. I married her despite all the pressure from the outside world. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I heard her voice for the first time. Surrounded by friends showering her with praise, she raised her chin smugly and scoffed. If that dead guy hadn't been mute too, why would I have gone through all this trouble for so many years? I stood frozen at the door of the private room, unable to move. Technically, I'd never heard Jessica Miller's voice before, so I shouldn't have recognized it. But when she mentioned that the dead guy was also deaf and mute, I was completely stunned. How did Jessica know? I didn't have time to think. A drunken passerby shoved me straight into the room. Jessica was sitting among a group of people. She looked over when she heard the noise. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Signing cheerfully, she said, "You're here." Then she took a step forward, pulled me to sit beside her, and signed to everyone, happily. "Well, isn't my husband handsome?" I had seen everyone in the room on Jessica's phone before. They were all her close friends, fluent in sign language. They laughed and glanced my way. "Gorgeous! Absolutely gorgeous," they teased as the room erupted in laughter. I sat silently, drinking one glass after another. All night, Jessica didn't utter another word. It was as if what I heard earlier had been a hallucination. After a few rounds of drinks, Jessica stood up and helped me to my feet. She said goodbye to her friends and helped me into the back seat of her car. I sat motionless in the back, my body heavy. My mind, though, remained faintly awake. I could feel Jessica glancing back at me now and then. Just when I thought we were almost home, she answered a call. The moment it connected, she couldn't wait to say, "Want to come over tonight?" "Isn't your husband home?" The man on the other end seemed to know me well, and laughed. Jessica snorted. "He's a lightweight, totally out. I know him better than anyone. He's completely out cold. Enough talk, are you coming or not?" After the man agreed, Jessica hummed a tune and ended the call. When we got home, Jessica directed the housekeeper to carry me into the bedroom. Then she dismissed all the staff and headed into the bathroom, still humming. I sat up straight on the bed and glanced at the time. It was just past midnight. I got up and knocked on the bathroom door. The humming stopped instantly. I pushed the door open. Jessica stood there, wrapped in a towel, looking at me with feigned shyness. "Jessica," I heard someone singing. "Was it you?" Her eyes widened as she shook her head and pointed to her phone. "How could it be me? I can't speak." I looked at her phone's black screen and said nothing. The next second, the doorbell rang, and panic flashed in her eyes. I rushed out before she could. I opened the door and froze. A man stood there smoking. He was just as stunned to see me, but then he grinned. "Long time no see, little bro." I didn't say a word. I blocked the doorway with my body. Jason Smith chuckled and waved past me. "That must be your wife, huh?" I turned around. Jessica had hastily changed into pajamas and came over, forcing a smile as she signed, "Who is this?" Watching her pretend not to know Jason, I almost laughed. Jason let out a whistle, still as cocky as ever. "Yo, Luke, got a thing for the mute ones, huh? Your last girl couldn't talk, and this one's mute too?" Thud. I punched him hard in the face. Caught off guard, Jason stumbled to the ground. He wiped the blood from his mouth and smirked provocatively. I grabbed his collar, forcing him to face me, fist raised again. Jessica suddenly threw her arms around me from behind. Her eyes were red as she stepped between us, signing frantically. "It's okay, Luke. Don't fight for me." Her gesture eased my rage. I stood still. Jason spat out a mouthful of blood, glanced between us coldly, then turned and left. Back inside, Jessica pulled out the first aid kit and began disinfecting the cuts on my hand. I lowered my eyes, quietly watching her. A dull ache spread slowly in my heart. It reminded me of someone long gone. Back when I fought Jason and got hurt, she would always patch me up like this with red-rimmed eyes. Isabel Smith. She'd open her mouth like she wanted to speak but couldn't. Sometimes she'd get mad at my recklessness and press the wounds on purpose while disinfecting them. When I winced in pain, she'd burst into laughter. And I'd laugh with her. I'd look into her eyes and say seriously, "Isabel, I won't let that bastard hurt you again. I kept that promise until the day she died." Jessica shook my arm gently, pulling me back from the memory. "What are you thinking about?" she signed. "I don't know him. I don't know why he came here." "Are you okay, Luke?" Jessica signed anxiously, as if she were telling the truth. I rubbed my forehead and looked at her with cool detachment. Instead of answering, I asked, "I've never asked before, how did you lose your voice?" The moment I said it, her expression turned sour. She forced a smile. "It's congenital, hard to cure." With that, she picked up the first aid kit and walked into the bedroom, clearly unwilling to continue the conversation. I didn't follow her. Instead, I went to the guest room. I didn't sleep a wink all night, staring at the ceiling as memories flickered through my mind like a film reel. My phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number, but I recognized that taunting tone instantly. It was Jason. "Luke Dawson, didn't think you still couldn't get over my sister. Even found a stand-in, huh? Wanna know why she jumped? I can tell you, just let me have your wife for a couple days." When I didn't reply, 2 more messages followed. "I tasted my sister. What's wrong with me tasting your wife?" One sentence was all it took. I smashed the phone against the ground. It shattered into pieces. My heart felt just as shattered, suffocating in its pain. The one thing I never wanted to remember was being dragged out like a sick joke by Jason. That monster. The next morning, Jessica acted like nothing had happened. She called me to eat. I glanced at the food, said nothing, grabbed my briefcase, and headed for the door. "Honey, a kiss?" Jessica signed with hopeful eyes. I didn't respond. Something inside me felt irreparably cracked. I shook my head and mumbled, "Got a meeting." Then I left in a hurry. At the office, I pulled up the home surveillance feed. The moment I left, Jessica had thrown the breakfast across the floor. Fuming, she pulled out her phone and called Jason. "What the hell was that last night? Why did you have to bring up that dead girl?" We could have pretended like nothing happened. "He didn't even suspect a thing between us, but you had to mention her. Now look, he won't even touch me." Jason's low laughter crackled through the speaker, echoing in my ears. It sounded just like that night in the rain when he forced Isabel to call me. Disgusting. "Then just come clean with him," Jason said lazily, which only enraged Jessica more. "Come clean? We just got married and I haven't gotten anything out of it yet. I'm warning you, don't you dare bring up that dead girl again." She screamed hysterically into the phone. What if he really starts missing her and divorces me? I listened to her calling Isabel. That dead girl. Over and over, and it stung like 1,000 tiny cuts. From their conversation, it was clear they'd known about Isabel all along. Jason's next words hit me like a slap. "Jessica, don't forget your place. You only got where you are because you used Isabel's memory, his so-called white moonlight. And now you're pretending to be something more? You think you can replace her in his heart? Please." Jessica's face turned dark, but she had no comeback. She slammed the phone down and started wrecking the house, screaming like a maniac. I shut off the surveillance feed, strangely calm. So Jason and Jessica weren't fully in cahoots after all, just 2 opportunists who teamed up for one thing: my money. My eyes fell on the stuffed bear sitting all alone on the sofa by the window. The sorrow hit me hard. "Isabel, I'm sorry. Jason used you while you were alive, and now they're still using you even after your death. I think I really messed up. When Jessica showed up pretending to be mute to win my sympathy, I shouldn't have fallen for it so easily. I shouldn't have foolishly tried to give her all the love I never got to give you. I was wrong, Isabel." After sorting it all out in my head, I had my lawyer draft the divorce papers and went home. The house was still a mess. Jessica clearly didn't expect me back so soon. She looked stunned when she saw me, then quickly forced a smile, trying to explain, but I said nothing. I walked through the wreckage to the living room, sat on the sofa, placed the divorce papers on the table, and looked up calmly. "I know you're not mute. I know you can talk. I also know everything you've done with Jason, but I'm not going to fight about it. I don't want to drag Isabel's name into a dirty mess. Let's just get divorced and pretend this never happened. Jessica didn't expect me to be so decisive. Tears fell instantly. She ran up to me, grabbing my arm and sobbing. No, I don't want a divorce. I love you, Luke. I married you because I love you. I know you still love that mute girl. But please believe me, I wasn't faking. I really was mute. I just got cured. Please, believe me. I let out a bitter laugh. The disgust I felt for Jessica had never been stronger. I yanked my arm away and said coldly, "Sign it. Don't make me hate you more." Maybe it was my tone that triggered her. Jessica stopped crying and burst into laughter instead. Her voice was shrill and grating, the sound rising louder and louder. When she finally looked at me again, her eyes gleamed with something twisted. "Luke, do you know why Isabel died? It was because of you. If it weren't for you, she'd still be alive. You're the one who killed her." Isabel was my classmate in high school. Before college, I lived in the cheapest part of the old town. She was my neighbor. Starting from our first year, classmates gave us cruel nicknames: Jinx, Deathbringer, Street Rat, Mute. The insults were endless. Isabel used to get upset when no one wanted to be friends with her or when the names got too cruel. But not me. I knew from a young age this wasn't going to be my whole life. My only way out was to get into a good university and escape for good. After Isabel and I became friends, I told her the same thing. I said, "They think we're nobodies, so let's become the ones they'll never forget." I told her, "Right now we have nothing. No one takes us seriously. We're just clowns to them. But once we make it, we'll prove who the real jokes are." We'd show them they were the pathetic ones. I was desperate to rise above, but Isabel didn't think like that. She was a pessimist. She once wrote that she could see her future clearly boring, grey, hopeless. At first I thought she was just being negative, but then I kept hearing crashes from her house late at night. And the next morning, she'd come to school with bruises hidden under her uniform. Her family wasn't just poor, they were toxic. Then one rainy night, I heard Jason's sick laughter and Isabel's strange sobs. I ignored my parents' protests and ran next door, pounding on the door. The old wood creaked open with a chilling groan. Jason stood there, a whole head taller than me, with fresh blood at the corner of his mouth. His look turned from annoyed to amused. "Well, if it isn't my sister's little lapdog, what's the matter? You want to join in? Make it a threesome?" I was old enough to understand what he meant. Enraged, I punched him square in the face. But I was no match for him. Within seconds, he had me pinned to the ground, pummeling me. Our faces were inches apart, and I glared at him, numb to the pain. "Jason, you're a monster. What you're doing is a crime." He raised an eyebrow and sneered. "Oops, I'm underage." The police came. We were both taken in. Later, both families signed a settlement. No money exchanged because we were both dirt poor. My mum had been seriously ill for years. By her 50s, she looked like someone in her 70s. My dad had lost a leg in a construction accident and had been wheelchair-bound ever since. They looked at me with weary eyes. Finally, my mum shuffled over, sat beside me, and gently patted my hand. "I know you care about that girl," she said. "But Luke, we can't afford any more trouble." I burst into tears. My righteous fury fizzled out like a bucket of cold water had been poured on it. That's right. I wasn't alone. I had my parents to take care of. I couldn't just rush to Isabel's defense and ignore everything else. That was the first time I hated myself, hated my weakness. I couldn't even protect the girl I loved. For years after, I'd dream of being rich and powerful enough to throw Jason in prison. But I'd always wake up and nothing had changed. The powerlessness consumed me and there was nothing I could do about it. The guilt over Isabel and the helplessness in my life made me painfully aware of my own limitations. To escape those feelings, I threw myself into studying and cut off all forms of entertainment. Every night after school, I stopped waiting for Isabel. Instead, I stayed in the classroom alone, reviewing until the security guard came to kick me out. When I left the school gate, I often saw Isabel waiting under the tree nearby. Every time, the image of my aging parents would flash in my mind. I'd steel myself, lower my head, and walk past her without a glance. She never approached me either, just followed me from a distance, slowly walking behind. When classmates saw we were no longer attached at the hip, the rumors exploded. "Oh, look! The street rat dumped the little mute girl." Figures. Even scum thinks she's beneath him now. Poor mute girl. I heard every word, but I didn't respond. Until one evening, after school, I didn't see Isabel. A sense of dread grew stronger. I turned around and ran back to the school, checking classroom after classroom until I heard faint banging and sobs coming from the boys' restroom. That night, I saw her cry harder than I ever had before. She tried signing to me, but I couldn't understand. So she took off her school jacket and started writing on it with a pen. The first thing she wrote was, "Thank you." Then she asked why I wasn't spending time with her anymore. Maybe out of pride, or not wanting her to know my shame. I didn't answer. As her tears kept falling, I learned the truth about her background through that long rainy night. Isabel wasn't Jason's real sister. She was their father's illegitimate child. When Mrs. Chen found out, she divorced Mr. Chen. Isabel's biological mother took the money and disappeared. Now the only people left in that house were their gambling-addicted father, Jason, and her. Not long ago, her father was beaten to death by loan sharks. Jason became her legal guardian. She couldn't escape, and Jason would never let her go. From the first time I saw Jason, I knew his feelings for Isabel weren't those of a brother. It was something twisted, possessive, almost pathological. But I was young and naive. I made Isabel a promise. "I'll get into a good university, and I'll take you away from all of this." With tears in her eyes, she nodded and wrote, "We'll escape together." In our senior year, both my parents passed away. Isabel stood by me through those painful days. She kept writing, "I'll stay with you. You're not alone." Just when I thought things were finally getting better, that we were about to start our new chapter. On the eve of the college entrance exams, school was let out early to prepare the test rooms. That evening, the sunset painted the sky, a breeze stirring in the warm air. Isabel and I stood outside our homes, looking at each other. After hesitating, I finally grinned and said, "Good luck on the exams. I'll see you after." The blush on her face said everything. She nodded and turned into her house. I didn't know that would be the last time I ever saw her. The next time I heard about her was after the exam. Students around me were celebrating, excited about the holidays. I stood under the tree, waiting for Isabel, just like she used to wait for me. But night fell, and she never came. A classmate walked by, laughing loudly. "Hey, street rat, what are you doing?" I ignored him and kept staring at the school gate. He scoffed. "Don't tell me you're waiting for the mute girl. You didn't hear? She jumped off a building on the first night of the exams, dead. They say her body was mangled beyond recognition. Scary stuff. Isabel was gone. I never even got to see her body. Jason had her cremated and burned everything. Even her ashes were scattered like fertilizer among plants. I returned to my empty home, holding a pillow, sobbing uncontrollably. I wondered if I had realized sooner, would things have turned out differently. But there are no what-ifs. I got into the best university, tuition waived. I finally escaped that small town. But the price was losing Isabel forever. I didn't date anyone in college, had no interest in meeting new girls. I focused solely on my studies, squeezed time to work part-time jobs, and after graduation started a business. Alone, I returned to the city near my hometown and met Jessica. It was a rainy night. She sat alone by the roadside, sobbing. The sound of a mute person crying is strange, haunting even, but to me, it sounded like heaven. I thought I was dreaming. I thought Isabel was still alive. But when I saw Jessica's face so different from Isabel's, I was jolted back to reality. Isabel was gone. Yet, seeing Jessica's tear-streaked face, her frantic signing, I couldn't help but feel pity. I took her home. It was an old apartment building, the newly rebuilt version of the one Isabel and I used to live in. Still old and run down. She stood on the stairs, waving and signing. Thank you. Maybe it was the heavy rain, but for a second, I saw Isabel standing there. After that, Jessica kept asking to meet up. I wasn't stupid, I knew what she wanted. I admit, I was tempted. I thought, if I couldn't forget Isabel, maybe a substitute was better than nothing. But my conscience wouldn't let me. I turned Jessica down, politely, firmly. I didn't expect her to be so persistent. Then, by chance, I broke my leg and was hospitalized. Jessica showed up and stayed by my side day and night. I thought, maybe Jessica's not so bad. Maybe I couldn't give her all my love, but I could give her everything else. That night, as if reading my mind, she looked at me and signed seriously. I know your heart belongs to someone else. That's okay. Mine belongs to you. Let's be together. We had a flash marriage and started our life together. I thought we'd live out our days in quiet warmth. I never imagined it was all a lie. Jessica left, but didn't sign the papers. She slammed the door and vanished. I stared at the wreckage around me, feeling nothing but exhaustion. Maybe I'd been wrong from the start. Maybe I was meant to be alone. But Jessica's words kept echoing in my head. You're the one who killed Isabel. My heart stirred. I pulled out my phone and messaged Jason. I want the truth. What do you want? Jason replied quickly. Now you want to know. Too late. I didn't give up. How much money do you want? I texted again, but Jason went silent. No response. I lay in bed, helplessness wrapping around me like it had that rainy night. The next morning, Jason finally messaged back. I want everything. Lunatic. I cursed under my breath and blocked him without another word. When I went downstairs, the housekeeper had already cleaned everything spotless. I drove to the office. After notifying the lawyer to file for divorce, I got back to work. In the middle of a meeting, my assistant burst into the room, visibly flustered. Sensing the urgency, I ended the meeting. Only then did the assistant hand me a phone. I glanced at the screen. Several trending topics popped up. CEO of Gar Group cheating. CEO of Gar Group is creepy as shell. My brows twitched. I tapped in and saw 99 plus screenshots of chat logs. My avatar was there, and across from me was a stranger's. The messages were flirtatious, undeniably so. In one message after another. It looked like I was pursuing her, saying greasy lines like, "You know I haven't slept in days. I think about you every night." She replied, "Be careful during thunderstorms." I responded, "I just want to see you. You won't give me anything. Now nothing tastes good anymore. But when you're with me, even air has flavor." She replied again, "You're so oily." And then, "My fate is greasy, but I'm not." I was speechless. Tossed the phone to my assistant. "Defamation. Sue them." "It's not me." The assistant scrolled for a few seconds and placed the phone back in front of me. "Sir, I checked the IP addresses and the account details. Those messages came from this phone. The screenshots too." I was stunned. I opened the contact list and found the same profile picture as that stranger. But the chat history was empty. That's when it all clicked. The screenshots had all been taken in the moment, then individually tagged with dates. This was Jessica's trap to destroy me. She used my phone to send those messages, then screenshot them and sent them to herself. Did she think a few fake screenshots could ruin me? I laughed coldly. Just as I was about to close the chat, another notification popped up. A popular influencer released a statement. Yes, the man was indeed the CEO of Goo Group. In the video, her eyes were red from crying. She claimed I tried to sleep with her, called her every night to harass her, and even broke into her house. She posted blurry surveillance footage of a man trying to force his way into her home. In an instant, public opinion turned against me. Jessica then released a legal complaint, with her attorney sobbing, as she accused me of cheating during marriage and trying to kick her out with nothing. She claimed she'd suffered years of abuse and humiliation, forced to live as a mute substitute. She said I didn't let her speak for 3 years, that I slapped her whenever she tried, forced her to kneel for an hour. No evidence, just words. But they ignited public outrage. My reputation was in ruins. In just 2 days, my company's official account lost nearly 1 million followers. Protesters gathered outside the building, throwing rotten eggs and waving signs cursing me. My long-time rival companies jumped in gleefully. Pending contracts fell through. Even bids I was certain to win were lost. The stock plummeted. Bankruptcy was looming. I never expected online fallout could be this severe. I also never expected netizens to believe anything they read. My assistant was running around like a headless chicken, but I suddenly felt calm. Jessica called. The number was unfamiliar and voice masked, but the smug tone gave her away instantly. So? Regretting that divorce yet? If you get on your knees and beg, I might consider calling it off. I was silent for a moment before asking, so what really happened to Isabel? Jessica hadn't expected me to still care about that. Her voice turned shrill, annoyed, but she scoffed. You're already drowning and still asking about that. Fine. You give me your company, and I'll tell you the truth. I smiled faintly and nodded. Okay. When I transferred the legal ownership of the company to her, she still didn't realize what I was doing. I waved my hand. Now, tell me. Overjoyed, she hugged the contract and double-checked it. Then she pulled out the signed divorce agreement and slapped it on the table. Now I control the company. You sign this, and we're even. I signed with a smile and called the lawyer in to notarize it. Jessica finally relaxed. When she saw I was still staring at her, she slowly began, I went to high school with Jason. I heard everything from him. He said, Isabel was raped that night. One sentence, and every hair on my body stood on end. It felt like my heartbeat shook the air. He said Isabel woke up screaming and wanted to call the police. Jason told her if she did, you'd find out and you wouldn't want a tainted woman. She couldn't bear the shame. Couldn't bear the thought of you knowing. That's why she killed herself. Her words were brief, but every syllable screamed of Isabel's pain and Jessica's indifference. My fury surged. I clenched my fists but forced myself to stay calm. I looked at her and asked, Then why did you marry me? Her eyes widened, stunned by my question. After a pause, she burst out laughing. For money, of course. Just pretend to be mute for 3 years and I get this much? Why wouldn't I? Jason said you were obsessed with Isabel. She died, so obviously you needed a replacement. I'm not as pretty, but that's fine as long as I'm mute. I stared at her smug, greedy face. All my anger evaporated. I smiled faintly. Jason told you to say all this too, didn't he? Isabel didn't kill herself, did she? Jason murdered her. The moment I said it, Jessica's face turned ghostly pale. When the police burst in, Jessica was still in shock. How do you know that? How do you know Jason killed Isabel? Did he tell you? I shook my head and pointed to the officers, then to my ears. I didn't know before, but now I do. Jessica bit her lip hard. Her eyes filled with murderous rage. Why are you arresting me? I smiled, picked up the contract she had thrown on the floor, shoved it into her hands, and said, Because you're the legal owner of the company now. Jessica was imprisoned for tax evasion. She brought it on herself. My company had no issues to begin with, but her publicity stunt invited every jealous competitor to strike with dirty tricks. My assistant was desperate to fight back, but I stopped him. It's fine. I can let go of this company because I have what it takes to rise again. But I needed to see Jessica and Jason pay with blood. Jason was arrested a week later for murder. He confessed everything without resistance. When both were sentenced to prison, the uproar on the internet finally began to settle. Netizens, now aware of the full truth, flooded my official account with apologies. admitting they had blamed the wrong person. But it didn't matter without them. None of this would have unfolded so smoothly. I already had some evidence before I confronted Jessica, but it wasn't enough. Her final words were the nail in the coffin. On the night of the college entrance exams, Jason had pushed Isabel off the building himself because he discovered she planned to escape with me. As I'd said before, Jason's possessiveness and control over her was sickening, and Isabel's determination to break free shattered the boundaries he'd set. That bastard, who tasted the thrill of power over someone not even his real sister, couldn't stand losing control. Jessica was right in a way. I did indirectly contribute to her death, but all I wanted was to help her escape. In the end, it was Jason who was to blame. Before they were both locked away, I visited them one last time. Jessica looked unhinged, crying and laughing like she had gone mad. "You knew all along, didn't you? You were playing me this whole time." I said nothing, just watched her. Finally, she stared straight at me. "Goosey, did you ever love me?" I shook my head, then nodded. "I told you from the start there was someone else in my heart. You said it didn't matter. That's why I agreed to be with you. At first, I thought you were a good person. I was willing to give you everything, except love. But you shouldn't have used Isabel. You shouldn't have believed Jason." I sighed, turned my back, and left the room. As I walked away, I could still hear her strange, broken sobs. Maybe she'd pretended to be mute for so long she forgot how to cry properly. Jason looked completely different and shaven, dark circles under his eyes, thinner than I remembered. When he saw me, the cocky look was gone. He glared at me with sunken eyes. "If it weren't for you, Isabel wouldn't have died." His voice rasped like a howl from hell. I smiled faintly. "Blaming me for everything doesn't make you innocent. It's your fault. If it weren't for you, Isabel would have stayed with me. She wouldn't have feared me or hated me. We could have had a perfect life. Hell, we might have had kids by now." His logic was laughable. I looked at him coldly. "Even without me, you and Isabel were never meant to be. You're siblings. Same father, you're a monster." Jason chuckled, a hollow laugh that didn't reach his eyes. He laughed and laughed until tears streamed down his face. "You know what Isabel said before she jumped? She told me not to cause trouble for you. See? Even before dying, she was still thinking about you. And you damn scum, you never deserved her love." Each accusation hit me hard. I swallowed the blood rising in my throat, forcing a calm smile. "You're right. Even in her last moments, she thought of me. And you? She probably spent her final seconds regretting ever meeting you, you worthless bastard." I didn't wait for his screams. I turned and walked away, never looking back. Only after stepping out of the prison gates did I feel the breeze on my face. I touched my cheek and realized I was crying. I drove straight to the cemetery. Isabel's tombstone was coated in dust. Guilt rippled through me again and again. I took off my jacket, carefully wiped the dust away, and laid down fresh fruit. I looked at the black and white photo of her forever 18 and whispered, "Isabel, I'm sorry. I love you." 3 years passed. My new company went public overseas. In just 3 years, I made the Forbes top 10 richest list. My net worth skyrocketed. Old scandals were unearthed by netizens again. But today's netizens are far more skilled than those 3 years ago. They even dug up an old, private Weibo account I had kept since graduating high school. Every post was a record of my grief for Isabel me regrets. My memories. Comments poured in. "Bro, you're not just Forbes top 10. You're top 10 in loyalty too. Bro, live well. She's watching over you from above." I didn't reply. I set that account to private, visible only to myself. I didn't want strangers intruding on what Isabel and I had. I just wanted to remember her quietly, on my own. I turned my phone to airplane mode as the plane took off. Watching clouds drift by the window, I saw one morph rapidly in the wind. The shapes came together forming, "I love you," in sign language. I stared at it and silently mouthed, "I love you too, Isabel. I never got the chance to tell you in this life." In the next one, I'll say it twice as much.